Hi, everybody. I'm Tammy Crane with Loan Depot. Welcome to this edition of Mortgage Monday. Today, I'm going to talk to you guys about closing costs and the 4 categories of closing costs, who pays for closing costs, and what to expect when you're buying a house. But before we get started, in case you don't know who I am, I'm Tammy Cranage. I'm a lender with Loan Depot, and I've been doing this for 18 years. Hard to believe. One of the things that makes me different is most lenders quote interest rates and pretty fees. I help my clients integrate the mortgage into their long and short-term financial goals so that I help you maximize equity and maximize your payment so that you are working for your mortgage and your mortgage is working for you and you are not working for your mortgage. So I do these videos once a week. This one's going to be shown on YouTube and on Facebook. So if you're out there, please give me a thumbs up, maybe even a little love. A wow would be nice too, just so I know that you're there. Okay, so let's talk about closing costs. Your closing costs are broken into 4 categories. Let me get to my banners here. So we're going to talk about closing costs. Your closing costs are actually broken into 4 categories. The first category is your lender fee. A lot of people don't realize that they think the lender just determines all the closing costs, but that is not true. The lender has their own lender fee. And depending on the lender you go with will determine what your lender fee is. Now, there's a difference. Your lender fee could either be a 1 flat fee. For example, Loan Depot charges 1 flat fee. But there are other lenders out there who charge a percentage of the loan amount. So you want to be careful and make sure you understand what the lender fee exactly is and what it involves. It does not include discount points. That'll be a topic for another day. The second category would be your attorney fees. Now, in Connecticut, Connecticut is an attorney state and you're required to have an attorney. In New York, you're required to have 2 attorneys. And then in New Jersey, also an attorney state. That's where I'm licensed, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Now, if you're in a different part of the country, you definitely want to talk to your lender who's in that area to tell you what category, to tell you if you're an attorney state or you're a title state. Third category is your third-party fees. This would include things like the appraisal, title insurance. It would include things like government fees, homeowners insurance. If you're buying a condo and we need a condo questionnaire, the condo management company will determine what that fee is. So that is something that is also a part of your initial closing costs. And then the last category, my favorite, often the most confusing of them all, would be your prepaids and your escrows. Your per day, so first of all, your taxes. It depends on where you live to determine how much of taxes are due. For example, in parts of Connecticut, your taxes are due semi-annually, which means twice a year. In some parts of New York, they're due once a year. In other parts of Connecticut, sometimes they're due quarterly. So that's an important thing to know. When are the taxes due? Because that's going to determine how much is needed to be paid at closing. Then you have your escrows. Escrows are often confusing because it's in addition to paying your taxes ahead of time. So you would have to pay your taxes and your homeowner's insurance times 2 months. In addition to what you have to do to kind of catch yourself up. So you pay for 2 months. The last of that category is your per day interest. Per day interest depends on the day of closing. So if you're closing on the 10th of the month, you're going to have to pay 20 days of interest. If you close on the 20th of the month, you'll pay 10 days of interest. So again, that number is determined at the end when we know when your closing date is going to be. So in summary, your closing costs are broken up into 4 categories: the lender, the attorney, third-party fees, which we talked about, appraisal, title, condo, home insurance, and your taxes and your escrow. Now, the other question I often get is, why are the fees so different in the beginning than they are at the end? Well, in the beginning, we're going to give you what's called a loan estimate. A loan estimate is an estimate and a breakdown of what your fees could be, not what they will be, but what they could be. So that is before your attorney sends those fees to your lender, it's just an estimate of what the title insurance could be. If there's a condo, we don't know what those fees are going to be, but by law, we have to give you an estimate. Then and every time something changes, for example, once you get your appraisal in, you're going to get a new loan estimate. When you lock your interest rate, you're going to get a new loan estimate. If the loan changes for any reason, you're going to get a new loan estimate. And I assure you, those numbers are going to always change. But what matters is at the end, you're going to get a closing disclosure. By law, 3 days before closing, you are required to get a closing disclosure, which will give you these fees are close to what you can expect to find. 3 days before you're going to get your preliminary closing disclosure, you have to sign this in order to meet your closing date on time. This closing disclosure is where things can change. That's where if you paid your appraisal and it was marked as not paid, we can make the adjustment. If there were fees that were already paid, we would make that adjustment with this. So that is where, and then at closing, you're going to sign the final closing disclosure where everything is finally done. So when do you find out what your final fees are? Usually the day before or the day of closing. I'm sorry, guys. I wish there was a better way. But so then how do you budget for this? How do you know how much your closing costs are going to be? Well, that's a great question. I can tell you in most parts of the country, your closing costs are going to be anywhere from 3 to 5% of the purchase price. So if your purchase price is $500,000, you can expect your closing costs to be about $15,000. What does that depend on? The taxes and the day of closing. That's what that's all going to be depending on. Now, the other question I get is, so how much are you expected to bring to closing? So in addition to your closing costs, you also have your down payment. Don't forget, you need the two of them. The down payment plus your closing costs equals your cash to close. So now who pays all this stuff? In some parts of the country, I have a client who's from Arizona. The seller paid all their closing costs. Well, that is up for negotiation. Here in Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, the buyer pays their closing costs, pays their own. Now, that does not mean that you can't negotiate with the seller and maybe they'll pick up the tab for you a little bit. But for the most part, you need to go into your purchase expecting to pay for your closing costs. And there's all kinds of tips and tricks, guys, that we could help you to avoid having to pay some of this, or is there a way to alleviate some of this burden? We can help you, and my realtors can help you. In fact, I have a long list of realtors standing by who are more than happy to help you negotiate closing costs in various different ways. So I hope this helped you guys out. It's super exciting to be doing these live videos. I love doing them. It is a great way for me to make sense of some of the noise that you guys are hearing. I know the first place you look is on the internet, and I don't blame you. It's the first place I look. So I hope that you'll be sure to like my page. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe. Where's the subscribe button? Subscribe to my YouTube page and be sure to like me on Facebook. Thanks so much for watching. It was so fun to hang out with you guys today. And if you catch me on the rebroadcast as well. So thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.